Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mr. Wiz here. If you are new to this channel, we build video games. Right now we are on our way of learning how to use Unity. So in the last lesson, we built prefabs, and you can see behind me here, this is the example of what we built in last lesson. I built some tree prefabs, and then we also built some prefab variants. So of course, the purpose of a prefab is that we can access it whenever we need to, and we can quickly and easily put it into our world. But it also has the benefit of if we change the prefab, it changes all the occurrences in our game. So today we're going to be doing some more advanced stuff with 3D objects. Before we do that, I would like us to create a new scene for the work we're going to be doing today. So go ahead and open up the scene folder, which you should have down here in your assets. You should have materials, prefabs, and scenes. So in our current scene folder, we've got the scene that we're working in right now. Mine's called sample scene. Yours might be called untitled scene, unless you gave it a title. Let's go ahead actually and name our scene. So I'm just going to rename this one 3D objects. This is the scene that we used to learn how to build 3D objects. Okay, now I'm going to create a new scene. So in my scene folder, I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to select scene. So, yep, right-click in the empty area of the scene folder. Go to Create and select Scene. And we're going to call this new scene Physics, because this is the scene we're going to be testing and learning about adding physics to our games. All right, so once you create that new scene, go ahead and open it up. And right now you'll see it as an empty scene. The only thing in it is the camera and the directional light, which, as we've talked before, will always be in any sort of new scene, right? They always come with these two default items. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start building a building. Before we get to all that, I do want all the pieces of the building to be connected. So I do want to create a parent-child relationship, which we talked about when we were building our prefabs. So I want to show you guys something I didn't show you in the last video. Before I start building this, I'm going to create an empty object. So to do that, I'm going to right-click in the hierarchy over here. I'm going to go, instead of going to 3D object, I'm going to select Create Empty. So what is the purpose of an empty object? An empty object is not really an object. It's more like a placeholder. So in this case, I'm going to create the empty object, and I'm going to treat the empty object as the parent of my parent-child relationship. This will allow all the pieces of my building to be connected to this, and they will all act as one object, right? So I'm going to go ahead and name this new game object, this empty game object, building. So as you can tell over here in the inspector window, it does have a position, rotation, and scale, but it doesn't have anything else. The numbers that are in the position, I'm going to reset them. I want them to go back to 0, 0, 0, the center of my map. I could do that by literally typing in 0, 0, 0, or I can click these three dots right here, and I can just choose to reset, and that sets all of them to the default settings. So now I've got an empty game object in the center of my world at 0, 0, 0 with a rotation of 0 and a scale of 1. So we're going to start building the object. I'm going to right-click on building, and I'm going to create my first child. So remember, if you right-click on an object and you create from here, it creates it as a child. So we're going to create a cube. Basically, what I'm going to make is I'm going to make the stairs leading up to my building, okay? My inspiration for this is going to be similar to the kind of buildings you would see in Washington, D.C., or maybe your state capital. There's usually a lot of stairs leading up to it. You might also see it at courthouses, right? So I'm kind of going off that inspiration. We're going to have multiple stairs leading up to a building. So your building does not need to look exactly like mine, but I would recommend that you follow along with me, at least on the stairs part, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start with a cube. And we're going to make it pretty wide. So let's go with 20 and 20. So I think I mentioned this before, but in Unity, the default measurements are in meters. So right now I have a cube that's 20 meters wide and 1 meter tall. Now, this is actually going to be my first step. 1 meter is really tall for a step. I Googled it earlier before making this video, and it turns out the average step height is 0.2 meters. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. So now I have 20 meters long, 20 meters wide, but only 0.2 meters tall. So this will be my first step. And in fact, let's go ahead and rename it Step. There we go. So now I'm going to create my second step. To do that, I'm just going to duplicate this. If you're familiar with copying and pasting with Control-C and Control-V, that's great. But in Unity, I find the best way is just to duplicate with Control-D. So I'm going to hold Control-D, and you'll see now I have 2 steps in my hierarchy. You can't see the second step because it's in the exact same position as the first one. So you can only see it if you grab the tools and you move it, right? So there it is. Boom. I'm going to undo that move because I want it to actually go back to where it was a second ago. Okay, so I could try using the arrows and dragging it around and trying to line up my steps perfectly, but in this case, it's actually going to be easier for me if I just use some simple math when I'm building these stairs. So if each step is 0.2 meters tall, how much higher do I need to move this step than the previous step? I need to move it up 0.2 meters. So rather than dragging it and guessing, I'm going to change the y to 0.2. Boom. So now it's exactly lined up with the previous step, but it is the same size. I need there to actually be steps. So I need it to be smaller in the x and the z. So they're both right now 20. Let's make this one 19 and 19. So now I've got, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see it. I've got my first step. And I've got it going the whole way around. So these steps are kind of leading up to the building from all 4 sides, the way I'm doing this one, just to keep it simple, right? So now I'm going to duplicate this, Control-D, and I'm going to do the same thing. I need this one to be 18, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I need the new Y position to be 0.2 higher than the previous one. So 0.2 plus 0.2 becomes 0.4. And now I've got 3 steps. And we can just keep going with this. It's really up to you how many steps you decide to make. You might want to stop at 5 or 7, or maybe you want to do 10. Maybe you want to do a whole bunch of steps. It's really up to you. So there I've got, let me see, 4 steps now. Oh, I messed that up. I put 7 and 7, 17. There we go. So let's look at it so far. Yes, I've got 4 steps now. Let's do one more for the video, just because I think it'll look a little bit better. So we'll do this one with a Y position of 0.8, an X of 16, and a Z of 16. All right, so I've got 5 steps leading up to where my government building type thing is going to be, okay? So let's go ahead and build that part of it. So this will also be a child of this object, because I want it all to be connected. So we're going to go ahead and create a cube, and I can kind of decide how big I want it and all that jazz. So you guys can design yours however you want to. Maybe I want it to be 10 meters by 10 meters. That looks pretty good, honestly. How tall do I want it? I don't know. 5. Let's see what that looks like. That's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Another thing, talking about math, looking at this here, it's really hard to tell. Yeah, it doesn't look like my building's really touching the bottom of the stairs, right? It's close, but not quite. So just to be more careful, I could use math on this as well. So if we look at my stair, my top stair, it has a Y position of 0.8. And the stair is 0.2 meters tall. When we're talking about the position, we're measuring from the middle. Okay? So the stair is 0.2 meters tall in total, but the middle of the stair is 0.8 meters above the floor. So if the whole thing's 0.2, the middle is at 0.8, what's the Y position of the top of that stair? If that's 0.8, the whole thing's 0.2 tall, what's the Y position at the top? The Y position at the top would be 0.9. So if I want the bottom of this to touch 0.9, I have to figure out that little bit of math there. So this thing is 5 meters tall, so what's half of 5? Half of 5 would be 2.5. So what I need to do is I need to take that 0.9 and I need to add 2.5. So that would give me 3.4, I think, which is a little bit less than what I have right now, which is 3.57. So if I do 3.4, now it should line up perfectly. And it does. There's no gap, nothing there at all. So it lines up perfectly. Do you need to do math every time you're lining things up? No. But if you're unsure, it's a good way to check yourself, right? Just some addition and division maybe, and it works out pretty well. So I've got my building, it's on top of the stairs, and now I just need to decide what I want to do with it. Maybe I want to add a dome to it, something like that would be pretty cool. I could use a sphere, and I could do something like that. That's pretty neat, right? Maybe I want to do some more with it. Maybe I want to add pillars or other things. So go ahead and design your building. I'm going to pause this video. So I want you to have your building designed, steps, and then a monument on top of it. Oh, I should name my monument. So the cube I'm going to call monument. So go ahead and design your building and then come on back to this video for the rest of this. Okay, I'm back. So this is what I made. I decided to get a little fancy with it here. I end up adding some more steps. So there's now a total of 10 stairs. And then I gave it columns as well, gave it a little bit of a roof. So basically I made this fancy looking government type building. So whatever yours looks like, I'm sure it's fine. When I was done, I did go ahead and add it to my prefabs so that if I wanted to put more in my world later, I could. I would suggest you do that too. So whenever you're done, just go ahead and throw it in your prefabs so you'll have it available. I do want to mention something real quick here. So with mine, and I think I did a little bit of this before I paused the video, you'll notice my monument, I put children objects on the monument as well, right? So the steps and the monument are all children's of the building, but the cube and the cylinders here, that's all part of the monument. So essentially what I created here is grandchildren, right? So we have a parent-child relationship, but the child can have its own children. So congratulations, you're a grandfather or mother or whatever. All right. So we have our building. It's looking pretty dope. Hopefully yours looks pretty cool too. But I told you guys that today we were learning about physics, right? So here's what I need you to do next. Inside of the hierarchy window over here, I want you to find the camera. So go ahead and select the camera. And when you do, you'll see a little video here showing you the camera's perspective, right? So right there, I can see what the camera sees. Not a great view for my building. So at this point in time, I need you to move your camera to a position where it can see things better, right? You want to get a good view of the building and the stairs. So wherever you feel like you need to put it, remember you can change the position and also the rotation. So feel free to rotate it so you can change the angle that the camera is looking at things. So maybe you want to look down on it a little bit. That's not bad. Maybe I want to come over to the side and get kind of a side angle. I can rotate it a bit there. Ooh, that looks pretty good. And then if I go into plane mode, I should see it from the camera's angle. And there's my building with the steps, and it's looking pretty decent, right? So go ahead, take a moment, move your camera and rotate your camera to wherever you feel like it has a good view of your building and stairs, okay? Then we're going to move on to the next thing. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to add a new object to my game. I'm going to shrink the building stuff because I'm not really editing it anymore. So if you click on the arrow, remember, you can shrink your stuff there. So I'm going to create a new 3D object, and we're going to make it a sphere. And I'm going to move this sphere so it's above the steps, but it should still be in my camera view, okay? So here, I can check the camera real quick and make sure that the sphere can, yep. So I can see my sphere right there. So I'm moving the sphere to some place where the camera should be able to see it. All right? Now, basically what we're creating here is we're creating a ball that's going to roll down the stairs. So when I said we were adding physics, the first aspect of physics that we're adding today is gravity. So I want the ball to roll down the stairs. If I hit play right now, do you think this ball will fall down and roll down the stairs? If I hit play right now. What do you think? Let's see. Nope, it just floats there, right? So why is it just floating there? Because we haven't given it gravity. We haven't given it a reason to fall. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select that ball that I just created. And over here on the right-hand side, where all of its stats are, we've got things called mesh. We've got a collider here, which we'll talk more about in a moment. Down at the bottom where it says Add Component, I want you to click on Add Component for me. And we're going to do a search for something called Rigid Body. So when you do a search, you're going to see two different versions, Rigid Body and Rigid Body 2D. Whenever you see a component that says 2D, that means it's designed for a 2D game. We're not building a 2D game, so we're not going to use that one. We're just going to use the one called Rigid Body. So once I select Rigid Body, I've got some things I can set up here. I have mass. So here I'm setting how heavy the ball is. And this is measured in kilograms, by the way. So it's all metric system with Unity. So how many kilograms does it weigh? Drag, which represents how much it slows down. Then down here we have use gravity, and you'll notice use gravity is already turned on. So if I just play it the way it is and I don't change anything, it should fall because it has gravity now. So let's see what happens. And there we go. The ball just rolled down the stairs. Congratulations. Let's watch that again. Very nice. Very nice. So we just created an object with gravity that will roll down the stairs. I wanted to mention one other thing, though, before we end this part of the video. The reason the ball rolls down the stairs is two reasons. One, it has gravity. Two, it interacts with the stairs. When it hits the stairs, it's interacting with it. It's rolling down it. The reason it's interacting down with the stairs is because of the collider. So over here with our sphere, you'll see it has a sphere collider. And if we click on the stairs, you'll notice the stairs also have colliders. This one has a box collider, right? These 3D objects that we've been building, they automatically come with colliders. Now, some things that you'll encounter in Unity, especially if you download a model, they might not come with colliders. So if that ever happens, you can always add a collider to an object by going down to Components, doing a search for collider, and you're going to find a lot of different ones. So box colliders are best for things that are rectangular shaped, like cubes and boxes. Capsule collider is best for things that are capsule shaped. You'll notice some of these are 2D colliders. Just like I was saying before, 2D colliders should only be used in 2D games. Sphere colliders are for circular things. There's a terrain collider, which I haven't really had much experience with. But there's a lot of different things here. Then there's one called a mesh collider. The mesh collider is for something that has a very unique shape. So a lot of times when I'm downloading models and putting them in my Unity world, those models might need a mesh collider depending on what they are a model of, right? So mesh colliders are for odd-shaped things where it just fits the mesh. Because you see how these shapes already have a mesh? So it would just fit the original mesh. So yeah, in the case of 3D objects like we've been building, they already come with their colliders. So when I hit play, the ball rolled down the stairs because the ball and the stairs both have colliders. If I select the ball and turn the collider off, which I can do simply by clicking the checkbox here next to Sphere Collider, if I turn the collider off, what do you think is going to happen when I play when I play the game this time? So the stairs will still have their collider, but the sphere will not have his. Let's see what happens. Whoop, it just fell right through the floor like a ghost going through a wall, right? Let's watch that again. Yep. So that's the importance of colliders. Both objects have to have a collider in order for them to collide, right? So yeah, we're going to go ahead and stop the video now. This is a good stopping point. So you should have a ball that is rolling down the stairs and you should be able to see it on the camera. We will be coming back to this program over the next couple videos, so make sure you save it. And I will see you guys next time. Oh, if you learned something new today, click the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. All right, talk to you guys later.